There. So welcome to module 7, activity-based costing. I mentioned in the module 6 that there are three methods that we will be using in the preparation of the profit statements of an organization. We'll be using the marginal costing and the absorption costing, then the activity-based costing. So we've looked at how we will use, or we can use, the marginal costing and how we can use the absorption costing. Now what we want to look at is how the activity-based costing can be used. You see, basically the issue about activity-based costing came to being as a result of the fact that we identify that there are some activities within an organization that causes the cost within an organization. So in a nutshell, when we talk about activity-based costing simply involves the identification of all the factors which cost the costs of an organization's major activities. So we're going to look at what the major activities of the organizations are, and then we will look at those activities. They are the activities that cause the cost to the organization. For instance, if it is a pure manufacturing company, then the major activities that they will be undertaking, which will let them incur more costs, is the ordering of inventories, material handling, machine, and then assembly, production scheduling, and then dispatching. So all these are the various costs that in a typical manufacturing company we undertake as an organization. For this reason, activity-based costing simply is where we're going to absorb overheads, not according to labor hours, not according to machine hours, not according to direct percentage of direct cost or whatever it is that we were doing our absorption costing. We will only ask ourselves, what is the major activities of the organization? Then we will absorb the overheads based on the major activities within the organization among departments or the products. So in undertaking activity-based costing system, there are steps that we need to follow. The first thing is to identify the organization's major activities. So what are the major activities we undertake as an organization? So as I was mentioning, handling of inventory, receiving of inventory, dispatching of finished goods, all these are major activities. So we identify what the major activities of the organizations are. Then 2, identify the factors which determine the size of the cost of an activity or causes the cost of an activity. These are known as the cost drivers. So you're going to identify the cost drivers in relation to those activities that you have identified. So a cost driver is simply a factor which causes a change in the cost of an activity. So if you look at your book there, we have basically some 4 cost drivers and then the cost pool. So we're going to have the ordering cost is a cost driver, and we're going to look at it from the perspective of the number of orders. Then material handling cost, that is the number of production runs, that is the number of production setup that we take as an organization. Production scheduling cost, if you want to look at the production scheduling or scheduling cost, it will also be based on the number of setups that is made during the year, or what we also call the production run. Then the dispatching cost will be dependent on the number of dispatch that we made during the year. So first, we identify the major activities. Second, then we identify the various costs that causes that changes the cost of the activities under discussion. Third is to collect the cost associated with each cost driver into what is known as a cost pool. So all the costs relating to ordering will be collected into a cost pool. All the costs relating to machine setup will be collected into a cost pool. All the costs that we incur in dispatching of inventories will also be brought together under one name, and that is referred to as a cost pool. The fourth thing is you now charge the cost of the products on the basis of their usage of the activities. So these are the steps that we follow in relation to the preparation of the profit statement using the activity-based costing. So the difference between activity-based costing and absorption costing is that in activity-based costing, we are going to absorb overheads based on the usage of the activity level by department or by products. But in absorption costing, we are going to use a predetermined overhead absorption rate, which is going to be based on labor hours, machine hours, or depending on the objective of the organization. So let's look at a question that we can use here in order to prepare profit statement from absorption costing and then profit statement from activity-based costing. Una manufactures 3 products, A, B, and C. So the company manufactures 3 products, A, B, and C. Respectively, production is $20,000, $25,000, $2,000. Sales price is $20, $20, so $20 throughout. Material cost per unit is $5, $10, $10. Labor hours per unit is $2, $1. Labor hours per unit is 2 hours, 1 hour, and then 1 hour respectively. Labor is paid at the rate of $5 per hour. Overheads for the period were as follows. So we have setup cost $950,000 or $90,000, receiving cost, that is the ordering, something like ordering, $30,000. Then dispatch cost is $15,000. Then machining cost is $55,000. So the total overhead incurred during the period is $190,000. Then we've been given the cost driver data for A, B, and C. Number of machine hours per unit for A, 2, respectively. The number of setups respectively is 10, 13, 2. Then the number of deliveries that were received, which will be based on the receiving cost, is 10, 10, 2. And then the number of orders that were dispatched during the year is 20, 20, 20 for all of them. The requirement is to calculate the cost and hence profits per unit, absorbing all the overheads on the basis of labor hours. So the A is more or less like absorption costing. We are going to use labor hours to absorb the overheads. So how do we go about that? Remember, here we were not asked to find the total profit, rather we were asked to find the cost per unit and hence the profit per unit. So we're going to be working per unit basis and not in total. So to solve the question for the A, which is going to be cost and profit per unit, and using labor hours to absorb your overheads. So if you are using labor hours to absorb your overheads, how do you go about that? We've been given the total overheads, okay? The total overhead has been given to us. You know, under absorption costing, we don't care the activity, so we're going to pick the total overheads, and in this case, we are told it is $190,000. But since overheads is going to be absorbed based on labor hours, we need to look at the total labor hours. Now, to get the total labor hours, it is going to be based on the product and then the labor hours per unit. We were told that, so we have 3 products, A, B, and C. A is 20,000. We were told that it uses 2 hours per unit, and that will be 40,000. B is 25,000, and we were told that it uses an hour, and that will be 25,000. And then C, it's 2,000 units, and that one also uses 1 hour, and that's going to be 2,000. So when we add, that will give us the total hours of 67,000 hours. So once we have the total hours of 67,000 hours, we calculate the overhead absorption rate. So your overhead absorption rate is going to be your total overheads divided by 65,000 hours. So what will be our total overheads? Our total overheads will be $2.86, $836 per hour, $2.836 per hour. So that is the overhead absorption rate. Now, immediately we calculate the overhead absorption rate. Now we must calculate the cost per unit for the products. So let me put the 3 products up here, A, B, and C. Now let me slash our dollar sign up, and we are calculating total cost. So we need to bring the material cost per unit in the question. And we're told the material cost for A is 5, for B is 10, for C is 10. Then we come to the labor. We were told that for labor, product A uses 2 hours and we pay labor $5 per hour, right? So 2 by 5 will be 10, and these guys use 1 hour, 1 hour, so it's going to be $5 respectively. Then we need to now bring the overhead. So the overhead is going to be brought. Remember, the overhead is 2.836 per hour. So if 2.836 per hour, we're going to apportion that using the actual hours that has been used. So for product A, it's going to be 2.836 times 2 hours, and that is going to give us 5.68. For product B, we're going to multiply it by 1, so it's the same figure, 2.84. So let me just run it to 2.84. So that is the overhead. That is the overhead. Now, this is what is bringing the difference between activity-based costing and absorption costing. In absorption costing, we just look at the total overheads and we divide it by the labor hours and we get the overhead absorption rate. That overhead absorption rate will be used to calculate our total cost of the product. So to get a total cost of the product, it's going to be this plus that. That's 20.68, and you are going to be 20 or 17.84, and then this is going to also be 17.84. Now this is the cost, right? This is the cost or total cost, let me call it that way. So we've done first part of the question, calculate the cost per unit, but the examiner also said hence calculate what? The profit. So how do we calculate the profit? We now bring the selling price per unit. The selling price per unit we've been given is 20 throughout. So 20 here, 20 there, 20 there. So when we bring the selling price per unit, we now need to get the profit or loss. If you look at it, you realize that it is going to lead to a loss of $0.68. So this is profit or loss. This is going to bring a profit of $2.26 or $2.16. It's a profit. Then this is also going to bring that same profit, $2.16. So this is how we prepare the profit statement per unit under absorption costing. Remember the procedure. We calculate the overhead absorption rate. Before then, we need to get a total budgeted hours. Once we know the total budgeted hours, we use it to calculate the overhead absorption rate. Now, we're going to absorb the overhead absorption rate using the labor hours per product or per output for the calculation that we are doing. So that is the absorption costing. But if it is activity-based costing, what is going to happen? Now, with activity-based costing, direct material cost will be the same, direct labor cost will be the same, selling price will be the same. The only thing that is going to change here is the overhead. So when we are using activity-based costing, marginal costing, absorption costing, the only thing that is changing is how the overhead is being absorbed or how the overhead is being apportioned in the books. So under activity-based costing, what we are going to look out for is to look at how we can apportion the cost in relation to all the products. Let's look at the cost drivers again. We were told that the total cost incurred was $190,000, that is the total overhead. Then we were also given the machine hour per unit that will be used to apportion machining, and we were also given the number of setups that were made. Then we were also given the number of deliveries and then the number of orders that were dispatched. So in order to calculate our total overheads, what we're going to do is to go this way. So overhead apportionment. So in the apportionment of overheads, in this case, what we are told first is to look at the setup cost. If you look at the setup cost from our question, the setup cost is 90,000. So I'm going to put the products down, A, B, and C. And we're going to start with the total cost here. So setup cost is 90,000. Now, what will be the cost driver that we are going to use to apportion setup cost? In apportioning setup cost, we need to look at the number of setup that the company made. So the number of setup is 10, 13, and then 2. 10, 13, and 2 means that it is going to be a total of, so 10 here, 13 here, and 2 there. And that is going to be 25, right? That will be 25. Now this 25, we're going to share it according to the total setup. So if we are sharing according to total setup, it means A will be 10 over 25 by 90,000. 10 over 25 by 90,000. So let's see, 10 divided by 25 times 90,000. And that is 36,000. So we're going to be apportioning, and this A will take 36,000. B will be 13 over 25 by 90,000, and that will be 46,500. And then C is only 2, and that is 7,200. So you see how we are apportioning the overhead. So we're going to apportion all the overheads according to the activities that each of the products used, okay, or the number of activities that the products used. The next thing is receiving cost. Now, receiving, we are given that the total is 30,000. Now, if you look at the cost drivers that were given to us, receiving will be in relation to number of deliveries received. So that will be based on number of deliveries received. So the number of deliveries received, if you look at it, the A is 10, the B is 10, and the C is 2. So number of delivery received is 10, 10, 2. And that is going to be 22. So if it is 22 and we are sharing 30,000, how do we go about sharing 30,000? So that is going to be 10 divided by 22 times 30,000, right? And that is going to be 13,636 for the A. Then the B is going to be also the same thing, 13,636, and then the C is going to be 2,728. Are you following the order? Now, why are we doing this? We are doing this because the examiner says we should calculate the total cost per unit. So we need to get a total overheads for each of the products. Then we can divide it by the total unit. Then we'll get a cost per unit.